Hi everyone, I'm Swathi from Indiahikes and you're watching Trek with Swathi. Today we're back with the deep dive series and we're not talking about any trek in the Himalayas. In fact, we're not even talking about trekking in India. We're talking about trekking in another country way north of India in Central Asia, one of the most beautifully mountainous countries that most of us would have seen only in travel magazines. We're talking about trekking in Kyrgyzstan. We have with us the founder of Indiahikes, Arjun here with us today. Recently, he, along with our co-founder Sandhya and a few others, had gone to Kyrgyzstan to trek and document treks there and come back to India and share it with all of us. They went on the Ala-Kul trek in Kyrgyzstan, one of the lesser known treks over there, and yet they came back absolutely stunned by the extraordinary sceneries they saw there. So let's ask them about it and deep dive a little bit into the details of this trek. Hi Arjun, welcome to the show. It's been a long time.
Yes, it's been a long time, Swathi. I'm happy to be here with you again.
Thank you. So, Arjun, I want to ask you a little bit about why you chose Kyrgyzstan to go and explore a trek over there in the first place. Because we are talking about the entire world at our feet over here, where there are so many mountainous countries. So, why did you choose Kyrgyzstan?
Kyrgyzstan, if you are familiar with the trekking world, Swathi, is a well-known mountainous country and a trekking destination. Yes, as a country, not many people know, but if you're a trekker, then you would have heard of Kyrgyzstan and how beautiful it is. So I had heard of Kyrgyzstan almost 8-9 years ago. And I've always wanted to go there because, the mystique of a Central Asian country and the mountains over there. See, when we look at India, we are in this side of the Himalayas, or the great mountain ranges which extends not only from India all the way to China up to Russia. And we wanted to see what is on the other side of this mountain because we have only imagined those mountains on the other side because if you go by the history textbooks that we have, we know that, our country, the Greek explorers, the Mughals, they all came from the Central Asia and they have come through those silk routes and those ancient trails which come through those very high mountainous ranges of the world. And these regions are always known for their extraordinary remoteness, beauty, and what we don't know sitting in this part of our country as in India. And that's how the interest came in, that let us explore the Central Asian mountains and see how trekking is in a country like Kyrgyzstan.
So, in a country that is so full of mountains, how did you zero in on the Ala-Kul trek?
There are a lot of treks in Kyrgyzstan. But we were very keen on picking up a trek which we from India could go and explore and do the treks. So these treks had to be minimum 4 or 5 days long. They shouldn't be too difficult or very treacherous to do. There are other treks also which are very high passes to cross and come over. So shortlisting all these treks took some time. In fact, we did not shortlist the Ala-Kul trek until we reached there. Yes, because we had a lot of extension of these treks also in mind, which we thought we would trek. We had about 3 or 4 pass crossings which would culminate along with the one which we did with the Ala-Kul trek. And finally, after much deliberation, we chose the Ala-Kul trek to be the trek that we would do. And I'm happy with that decision because it turned out to be an excellent trek for people to do, not only for us, but for anyone to do in this country.
So I was looking at the pictures that you had shared with us and I was also, I've been listening to your experiences because all of you who went there have been talking about the sceneries over there. So take us through the trek. What is it that really caught your attention?
See, when people imagine a Central Asian country, in their minds they're imagining it to be very deserty, barren, open grasslands, miles of grasslands like the steppes and things like that. But what we went and saw was exactly opposite. We saw greenery that we had not seen. It was like Kashmir or perhaps even more. We saw streams and rivers which were gushing through these valleys. We saw an alpine section. We saw meadows and grasslands which we had not seen before with our eyes. And it had all of these in a short span of 4 or 5 days of trekking that we did there. And we went through this gamut of changing of sceneries. Each day of the trek was almost like an independent day of trekking with its own beginning, middle and end. And so much was the variety and the sceneries just took us by surprise because it was exactly opposite of what we were expecting from our imagination of a Central Asian country.
Can you take us through maybe top 3 highlights that stood out for you on the trek?
The biggest highlight would be the 3 things. One is the forest sections, beautiful coniferous forests. Beautiful coniferous forests with lot of mixed vegetations in between, the valleys that we were going through, and these forests, look, unlike India, the valleys and the forests are very dense. But here, not only is the forest dense, but then the valley opens up. So it's a wide spread of valley at the bottom. Unlike our country, so you have this, horses grazing at the valley bottom with the river meandering through this valley bottom, and and you're witnessing this with all this tall coniferous through under which you are walking. But on your side, you have this valley which has already opened up. But it's not a very wide valley. I mean, this valley can be crossed over within maybe 15-20 minutes if the river wasn't there. So on either side of the trek, you have these kind of valleys. You have the open grasslands, a beautiful open grasslands. You can, as long as your eyes can see, you will have these grasslands, and grasslands where horses are grazing. You can walk barefoot. So you have these open grasslands and beautiful settings of these grasslands. You have these camps in these grasslands. You have the Urut camps along. You have streams flowing in through these grasslands. So all in all, it's a very picturesque setting. And then when you have done all of these, you have this alpine section where we go to this Ala-Kul lake. This white lake, milky green in color lake, which unbelievable until you actually get to the lake, that you have such a big lake, almost like a Kashmir lakes that we are talking about here. Outside that, trekking in Kyrgyzstan also comes with this culture. And going to a foreign country, witnessing this unique Central Asian culture, being part of it as a trekker, because only as a trekker you will witness this culture firsthand and closely, because as a tourist you will never see this. And watching this culture, being part of it, and you would think these are like nomadic places. No, they are not. They are very modern. They are very modern, lot of modernity plus lot of culture. The food experience is great. So all in all, that entire experience of going to Kyrgyzstan, witnessing a culture, doing this trek and coming back to India, it will leave you mesmerized for years to come.
So you mentioned this lake that you witnessed. So can you tell us about that lake experience?
The lake, to get to the lake, you have to climb a pass, which is called the Ala-Kul pass. And this pass climb itself is a very nice adventure on its own, because it's not a very long climb, but you have to nevertheless climb it. It's all scree and loose rocks, and you have to, have a sheer footing, and then you get to the top of the pass, and only then the lake reveals itself. So then the lake is, sprawled out under you. You have to actually get down from the pass to the lake. That itself is another almost close to 1,000-foot drop before you get to the lake. And then you camp beside the lake.
You camp right beside the lake?
Yes, you can, and you must. And not many people do that, but you must camp. And there are small, campsites which you can get for yourself, and camp there and witness this lake both as a sunrise and as a sunset. It's going to take your imagination.
So I wanted to ask you, since you were mentioning camping and campsites, I've heard a lot about yurt camps, especially while trekking in Kyrgyzstan. So what is this? What's it like? Can you experience it yourself?
Yes, you can. Though when we went there, we had our own tents and we pitched our own tents. But these yurt camps are these big circular tents, which are made by the nomadic tribes over there. These are huge tents. It can take in at least 20-25 people easily inside. So these are huge circular tents made up of local wool and canvas and a lot of this material which they have, wood and sticks and all those things. But these are temporary shelters, and these yurt camps are taken off when the season ends or when the snow falls. So, but these are nomadic tents, and now many of these yurt tents have been converted into trekkers camps, where you pay a certain amount of money and you can stay there. But it's not there everywhere. So on this trail, you will find it at the first campsite and at the last, but you will not find it in between. In between, you will have regular tents where you need to stay in.
And if somebody has to do this on their own, and how can they go about it? Especially because you said first and last day they have these camps. What about in between? Can you trek easily on your own in Kyrgyzstan?
I think you can. You can trek. We did it on our own. You probably need to take a local guide from there, and they are easily available from Karakol. That's the base city of this trek. You can get a local guide and you can do this trek. You need to carry your own gears, tents and sleeping bags and a kitchen unit, and you can comfortably do this trek on your own.
So when is a good time to go see this setting?
A good time is between July, August and up to mid-September. Just like our Kashmir treks, so July, August and up to mid-September is when we would do this trek. You may attempt it from middle of June, but the snows could be high around the pass. And again, after mid-September, the winter snows are going to come in, so it gets very cold.
Okay. And is it a difficult trek? Like, how difficult is it?
It is a moderate difficult trek in the same grade as Rupin Pass, Buran Ghati, and those kind of treks that we have. And no one must take it lightly because there are big climbs to do, a pass to cross, boulders and scree sections to navigate, rivers and streams to hop over. So it's not something which you will take it casually. Yes, you need to prepare, you need to be nimble on your feet, and you need to be prepared for a lot of adventures because after all you're trekking in a foreign country and you will be carrying your own backpack and nobody is going to do that for you.
I want to ask you a little bit about the trekking culture over there, because over here we see that trekking is growing in India and we see a lot of people trekking at least on the popular trails. What is it like in Kyrgyzstan? Do you see a lot of trekking happening over there, and what is the trekking culture like?
The trekking culture is rich, but it is not Kyrgyz folks who are trekking there. It's all outsiders to Kyrgyzstan. So when you are on the trek, you will see Czechoslovakian, you will see Polish people, you're going to see Americans, you're going to see English folks trekking, Italians. So from all over the world people are coming, mostly European. You'll even find Iranians and them trekking over there. No Indians, unless we start trekking over there. But so unlike our Indian treks where it's mostly Indians who are trekking, you will not find local Kyrgyzstan folks trekking. On the other hand, the trails are not overcrowded or something like that. It is a popular trek, but not so much like, you'll feel suffocated and, there are too many folks, but you will see trekkers all along.
So I want to ask you a little bit outside of the trek. You've kind of taken us through the entire trek, the lake, the grasslands. I want to ask you, outside of the trek, you have been talking about a lot of other highlights in Kyrgyzstan itself that you could probably see before or after your trek. So can you take us through that?
Yeah, see, Kyrgyzstan, as I said, is a unique Central Asian country. People imagine Kyrgyzstan, it must be very, very nomadic and very, ancient kind of thing. Nothing like that. It's pretty modern. In fact, when you go to the capital city, Bishkek, you'll be taken aback at the modernity. It has the ancient Russian architecture and culture, yet the outlook of the people are very modern. It has good universities and a lot of Indians actually go there to study as well. So roads are big and wide and you have trams going on the road, you have modern buses going on the road. It has lovely bazaars, and that's another thing which you need to take in over there because, when we went to Bishkek, Osh Bazaar is something which we all were wanting to go there. And that takes you almost like the Asian countries, the similarity is there. It's like, that familiarity would be there when you go to a place like Osh Bazaar, and anyone must go there. But the journey also from Bishkek to Karakol, which is round about 6.5, 7 hours of journey, is also very interesting because it passes by Ak-Suu. Ak-Suu is the world's second largest lake that we have. It's a brackish water lake. And that entire road passes by the lake, and it is almost 3.5 to 4 hours along the lake, the blue turquoise waters of the lake you're going to be passing by, and your drive is right alongside that, and you cannot see from one end of the lake to the other. It's almost like a sea, and you're going to be passing that, and people from all over the world come to see that lake. So you're going to be on that lake, so that's again an attraction. In fact, we stayed there for a day over there just to take in that lake, but we did that after the trek. So Karakol, small town, not as big as Bishkek obviously, but it has its attraction, it has its bazaar, you can do last minute shopping. So Kyrgyzstan has a lot of culture for you to take in. If you get time, you can go into Uzbekistan, which is a neighboring country. Yeah, it's not too difficult. You can go into Uzbekistan, and you can take in the culture of Uzbekistan. Very different from Kyrgyzstan, but it's just a neighboring country. So you can do that. You can go to Tashkent, you can go to Samarkand. So you have heard all these names, and very, very interesting cities to do that.
Very historic names.
Absolutely, they're very historic names and wonderful cities to look into, the culture that we have there. So just for this culture, for the Central Asian feeling, the food experience, and the sights that you see, Kyrgyzstan has really captured my imagination.
I want to ask you slightly more practical questions that trekkers may have, because if we have to trek in another country, there are lots of concerns that we have. So one is, how expensive is it trekking in Kyrgyzstan?
Kyrgyzstan is not at all expensive. It is almost like trekking in India or Nepal. So we didn't find it expensive, and I think none of our trekkers would find it very expensive. Slightly more than India. Obviously, India is in our own country, but outside that, it is not very expensive at all.
And what about the connectivity over there? Like, is it easy to get from other countries to Kyrgyzstan and within the country?
I'll answer this in two parts. Getting to Kyrgyzstan is not very easy. The direct flights from Delhi to Bishkek are still not operational. So you have to either fly to Sharjah and then come to Bishkek, or you have to fly to Uzbekistan, Tashkent, and then fly to Bishkek.
That's why you were saying you have to go around.
Exactly. As the crow flies, the flight would have been maybe 3 hours long, but because you have to go around, it's easily 8 to 11 hours long. The flight with a stopover, maybe at Sharjah or somewhere like that, or at Tashkent or something like that, where you may have a stopover. But the flight fares are not too expensive. A round ticket would cost around about 47,000 rupees if you book it early enough, which is fairly okay. I mean, it's not something which will bother too many Indians. And within Bishkek, you have a lot of these buses. Marshrutkas is what people call them. So you can take Marshrutkas and go anywhere. From Bishkek, you can take a Marshrutka to Karakol. These are buses. You pay a ticket, it's not very expensive. Food is not too expensive again. Stay as well is not too expensive. It would be just like in our country, slightly more maybe, but it's only marginally more. It's not something which would bother our Indian trekkers too much.
So any concluding thoughts on why Indians must go trek in Kyrgyzstan?
See, trekking in Kyrgyzstan is a different experience because you're trekking in a different country. See, going to a different country itself is an experience for most of us in our country. We don't usually go to foreign countries. And even if you go to a foreign country, we go as tourists. We don't go and see them inside out like how you do as a trekker. And even if you do that, you're not doing it in a Central Asian country which I've never heard of before. That in itself is an experience, and then getting to see this culture, the settings, the atmosphere of a foreign country and a Central Asian country, and then doing a trek which is mind-bogglingly beautiful, is going to be one of the highlights of your life for the rest of your life. And that's why you must do it.
Thank you for that. I think it was a very insightful. I kind of got an idea of what it's like trekking in Kyrgyzstan, and especially the Ala-Kul trek. I think it's something that definitely all trekkers must watch out for. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Swathi.
So that was Arjun Majumdar, the founder of Indiahikes, taking us through the Ala-Kul trek in Kyrgyzstan. He told us what the trek is like, what the culture in Kyrgyzstan is like, and what you can expect when you trek in these beautiful mountains. So if you have any other questions, just drop in a comment and we'll get back to you. We are about to open up the trek to Kyrgyzstan very soon, so just keep a tab on our website for that. Also, make sure you follow us on our social media on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn and Twitter, so that you're up to date with everything that's happening at Indiahikes and in the trekking world. We'll be back with more soon. Thank you for watching.